Well, hello, people. Welcome to Tuesday night. And tonight is the nonfiction preparedness book club, post-apocalyptic preparedness book club. And so right now we are working on the book Food Storage for Preppers, a week-by-week plan for surviving the apocalypse. And we're going to be doing our second installment on this book tonight. So it's kind of exciting. Although I'm kind of doing 4 different projects or chapters at a time. Tonight might be a little bit shorter than anticipated because when I said we're going to do 5 through 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8, but they're really short discussions. So I've tried to get 1 or 2 show and tells that I can enhance a little bit about what we talked about last week and maybe add a little bit more to this week as well. So we've got 5 on the platform right now, not counting me, I guess makes 5.5. Just 1 second. I'm starting to wheeze, and I don't think you want to hear that because that wheezing's right there close to the mic. But let me see who we got here so far. So of the 6 that we have following, right now we have Diana 2, Hill Summit Homestead, and which is coming to you all from Australia, Utah Mike, and Little Lone Prepper. So hello, everybody. My gosh, this is a great book. So let's first off do a review. So in my Prepper Pantry haul that I did Saturday, I kind of changed up my Prepper Pantry haul just a little bit. I gave you what we should have been if we're going to follow this book. I gave you, number 1, what we should have purchased or acquired for this plan last week. And then I did my normal, this is what I'm doing this week or what I have done this week. And then the third portion of that Prepper Pantry haul is what you should be doing or we'll be talking about tonight. So stuff to pick up this week. So I'll do the same thing next week. I'll be recapping basically what we're talking about tonight as the intro part, my part, and then at the end, I'll show you what you should be acquiring for over the course of the next week, which will be announced again on the Tuesday night book club. So let me see. We've got Butch Grave has joined us. Little Lone Prepper has joined us. Kill It and Grill It from Nebraska has joined us, and Cats and Prepping. Hello, everybody. So let's get into what he says we should have. Now, remember, this is if we do this plan, the 52 different purchases that he is recommending, and this is David Nash is the name of the author. If we do these 52 purchases, it's going to be 2,000 calories a day for 2 people for 10 months, okay? So if you want more than 2,000 calories a day, which you probably will need, or if you want longer than 10 months, you're going to have to add a lot to it, okay? Hello, Sumi, welcome. Good to see you. And so for next week, what he's recommending that we acquire are 50 pounds of wheat. Now, if you don't have a wheat grinder, I don't have a wheat grinder. It's on my list of things that I want. It's on my punch list, my dream list, my bucket list, whatever you want to call it. It's just not a really high priority. So what I'm doing is I'm substituting in place of the wheat, I'm substituting canned flour from the LDS Provident Living Center. So a can of flour is roughly 6 pounds of flour. So that means you're going to need just a little bit over 8 cans of flour if you get it from the LDS Provident Living Store. 6 pounds of macaroni, which is basically 2 cans from the LDS Provident Living Store. 20 pounds of sugar, which is basically 3 cans from the LDS Provident Living Center. So we're up to about 13 cans, 2 cases plus, and then 8 cans of tuna. LDS Provident Living Center doesn't have tuna, so you're going to be on that one yourself. He doesn't mention the size of the can. They come in the smaller ones and they come in the larger one, and then they come in the big grand ones. We get the larger of the 2 small ones. So that's what we do. I don't know the sizes of those, but I guess I should have taken better. I should have written that down. But anyhow, that's what we are going to be looking at acquiring over the course of the next week. in order to get our 2,000 calories per person per day for 2 people for 10 months. So if you overbuy, for example, I said that the wheat is roughly 6 pounds per can. So if you do 8 cans, that's 54 pounds. You're a little bit over, so that's going to give you either a longer period of time or it's going to give you more calories, whichever you choose in that same time. So Triple G Farms has joined us. Welcome. Good to see you. Utah Mike has joined us. And he says you can use wheat berries as a breakfast cereal. Yes. And so LDS Provident Living Center, and I don't get anything by promoting them. I just think they have as far as value, they have the highest value on the market as far as cost and quality. So, if you can get through with the LDS Provident Living Center, but and they have some instant cereals as well. They have instant oatmeal. They have some bran flakes, I believe. But there are, so wheat berries are a great breakfast cereal, and you can use them for a lot of different things. As a matter of fact, I was watching a German video today because this guy Schnell Lecker, which is quick and simple. Schnell Lecker. But anyhow, he comes out with a video almost every day. And today he was adding wheat berries to his soup. So they can even be included in your soup. And that's going to be an additional filler, I should say, double L, not LT. And then we're going to LT, Lieutenant. Then we're going to have, a little bit more caloric content. You can do the same thing. You could replace that with lentils. So, there are some different things you can add in there. Let's check out and see where we are. Obamatricia 1. So did we have Obamatricia 1 in here? Did I miss welcoming James Trump, 24 Price, welcome. From East Tennessee. I did miss Obamatricia 1. Thank you. Welcome from Louisiana. We have another one coming in from Louisiana here shortly. Okay, let's see what their hand-crank wheat grain grinder selling fairly cheap from China. All the usual Temu, Amazon, eBay, etc. The electric ones suck a bit of juice, but do the coarse grinding fast. Yes, and that's I'm looking for all hand-operated materials. Chances are 85% that I am going to have electricity after the grid goes down. 15% if we have an EMP, okay, or a CME. Under those two circumstances, I'm not sure whether my ferrite rods that I have installed in the system will stop the EMP from damaging the solar panels and the battery. But I know that they'll protect all the electrical stuff on the inside, but I'm worried about the solar panels and the battery. So I do have a smaller solar system out in the garage where the solar panels and the battery, the power supply are kept in a separate area, hopefully protected against an EMP or CME. But, that's, man, oh man, I tell you what. So, which kind of reminds me, if I were the enemy, everybody's worried about nuclear fallout. And the nuclear fallout only happens if the fireball makes contact with the Earth. So you have to have that radioactive element contacting the Earth, then radiating the Earth particles, superheating them, throwing them up in the air, and then they're going to come down over time, and that's called fallout. They fall out of the sky. But that's a very inefficient use of a nuclear weapon because one reason it focuses way too much of the energy in one particular spot. Now, if you're trying to get a Titan III missile silo or a Minuteman silo, great use. But otherwise, you're not going to do as much damage, surrounding damage, as you would with an airburst. Now, two things happen with an airburst that make it advantageous to the force that's employing them. Number one, you're going to have a broader area of destruction. And number two, if it's done at a high altitude, okay, where you're not really looking for the destruction, you can produce an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. And that's going to take out everything electrical. the commission, we just finished the book by Jonathan Halloran. This last nonfiction book that we did, you can go back and look at those series. But he talks about the fact that if we have an EMP over the U.S., 90% of the U.S. population will expire within a year. Okay, so 90% of our population can't live without electricity, and that's going to be something for us. Prepper Book Club, welcome. And he adds that I grew up with the wheat berries as cereal as well. There was a question asked on, I believe it was Rudy, Alaska Preppers channel, about vacuum sealing cereals. And would it destroy, if you vacuum sealed the cereals, would it destroy the cereal? Would it subcompact them? And the answer to that is no. No, I'm sorry. It was, I believe it might have been Little Lone Prepper asked the question, what happens? There's two different questions. One is, you long-term store cereals. So if you're going to long-term store cereals, I recommend that you long-term store cereals that have no sugar content in them. So you want to look at things like Corn Flakes instead of Frosted Flakes. You want to look at Rice Krispies without any additives in it, shredded wheat without any additives in it, Cheerios without any additives in it. Those are good wheat berries, Mueslix, bran flakes, those types of things without any sugars added to them are going to be great for long-term storage. And yes, you can vacuum seal those. The second question was one, and it may have been Little Lone Prepper, correct me if I'm wrong, asked if you can vacuum seal pasta. Does it affect the pasta? I vacuum seal almost all of my pasta. And so far it hasn't hurt it at all. As a matter of fact, there are two pastas that are vacuum sealed in number 10 cans from the LDS Provident Living Center, and that's macaroni and spaghetti. Now, I have a feeling you're probably asking about other tubular or like shell roni or something like that. It would seem as if when you evacuate the air that they're going to crunch together. I think that's the thought process. I'm putting it into the way that I thought when I first did it, but no, it doesn't. They kind of, the air goes away. They're still there. They interlock a little bit, but nothing to worry about. So yes, you can vacuum seal pasta, and you can vacuum seal non-sugared cereals. Golly, look at all these comments I've missed. I am so sorry. I went with the Wonder Mill from Theoxorus. Does a good job, but there's nothing quiet about it. Here's my thought process. I have so I do some coffee beans, and I have a coffee grinder, and something tells me, and I could be really, really wrong, and post-apocalyptic, it would be the wrong time to find out that I am wrong, but something tells me that the grinding that I do with my coffee beans could be the same process I would do with my wheat berries if I had any. So Utah Mike says wheat berries with molasses. I assume we're talking about breakfast. Prepper Book Club says you can get grinder attachments for a KitchenAid mixer if you have one of those. And Pat, that's why I said we need to modify that, because I believe, and I went out my Tuesday morning prayer group, okay, that I do every Tuesday morning. I had a $12 breakfast this morning. It was ham, scrambled eggs, hash brown potatoes, and refried beans, and then 2 slices of toast. And I left half of my food on the table, and that's the same thing. When I got home, Helen asked me what I wanted for lunch. I wasn't hungry, and I'm 72. So I wasn't hungry because I had such a big breakfast. Now at dinner, I did have a fairly big dinner. That's something we do different from the Europeans. I think the Europeans actually are smarter than we are. They have a light breakfast to start their day. Then they have a very heavy lunch. Then they have a lighter dinner. And then that way, or supper. And then that way they sleep better than we do. Whereas we have a heavy meal in the evening. We're still trying to digest that. And we have a hard time sleeping as a result of it. So I'm trying to get to the point to where I'm eating a lighter breakfast, except for Tuesday mornings, a lighter breakfast, and then a heavier lunch, and then a lighter supper. And I think with that, maybe I can do like the Europeans do and get a better sleep pattern. But you're right. So at your age and being a female, you don't need 2,000 calories a day. I probably need about 2,500 a day, but a working 18 to 35-year-old male can consume up to 3,500, 3,700 calories per day if they're working hard in manual labor. So, you need to vary those numbers based upon your own individual needs, your own individual lifestyle, and it has a lot to do with how good you are, how in shape you are. Oh gosh, did I mess up this week? So we do exercise every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Silver sneakers. It's physical exercise for old farts, and so I messed up, and I with St. Vincent de Paul, I scheduled a meeting with a neighbor who needed our help, actually homeless, and so we scheduled it at 12:30 at McDonald's so we could buy them lunch while we're talking about how we can meet their monetary needs. And Helen said, "Yeah, you did it again. You scheduled something to get out of our 1:00 exercise class." And then tomorrow, I represent St. Vincent de Paul at our city has a ministerial alliance. And so most of the major churches and not-for-profit groups like Meals on Wheels and things like that, we all get together once a month. And so tomorrow is our monthly meeting. And of course, it's going to keep me away from exercise again. So this week I'll only have a Friday exercise. And of course, Helen thinks that I'm doing it on purpose to get out of exercising. Oh, well. I read less than glowing reviews for those stand mixer attachments. So at that point, the few extra Jacksons are okay with me. Okay. Let me see. It's too much for me too. And we're talking probably calories here on the daily food requirements. I usually prep everything for at least one other person, just in case a family member or friend shows up and is willing to work for food. And so if you've noticed my prepper pantry hauls, quite often you will see me add, as a matter of fact, I did a little bit of my shopping today. You will quite often see me add a can of spaghetti or raviolis or something like that. This time I got extra overstuffed beef raviolis. It's $1.24 a can. I'll buy one of those a week, and I'm setting that aside. That's not something we would eat typically, but it's something that I can give to somebody who comes to my door in need of food. So I agree with you, Little Lone Prepper. I think what you're doing is admirable, and that's in my opinion, you're one of my family. The way I believe it. So Sumi says, without electricity, lost from a high altitude EMP, there will be a huge population die off, but the land and those resources will be available. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You're absolutely right. That was the other thing I wanted to point out was, of course, depends on the half-life of the object, the I don't want to call it a chemical, the neutron that's being used. You can have half-lives of seconds to years, but depending upon which substance they're using as the fission or fusion material, those half-lives, that area could be irradiated for up to 100 years. Okay, so that's one of the disadvantages. Most countries want our resources, want our country. We're rich in resources, and so they probably will not want to irradiate too much because they want to be able to occupy it. And if they have a whole bunch of fallout and a whole bunch of nuclear radioactivity, then they aren't going to be able to occupy it and use our resources. Okay, so Utah Mike says he has an adequate backup electrical, but can he protect it from the others? Oh, look at this. Prepper Book Club knows what I'm talking about. They're talking about spaghetti bites, which are what's inside the number 10 can from the LDS Provident Living Center. And those are little bitty, the spaghetti that they do is probably about 2 inches and 2 to 4 inch, pieces, and so instead of the big long 10 or 12-inch pieces of spaghetti. So you're going to get shorter ones so they can put them in the can and get more volume of spaghetti in there. So thank you, Prepper Book Club, for that astute observation. Thank you. We vacuum seal all of our pasta, then bucket it with rice, oxygen absorbers, and buckets over 1 ton of pasta. Wow, no problems. Okay, great. And I'm sure that, Jack, that you're doing, things like sholroni, macaroni, probably rotini, things like that that have a hollow core. And so that makes sense. Oh, okay. So Little Lone Prepper says it's a good question, but she didn't ask it. Okay. I thought it was you. I know I've seen you on a couple of the other channels that I follow. So, okay. So, note, open a bucket. There is either rice or pasta in there or beans and pasta. 3 vacuum sealed packs of pasta per bucket. Okay. That works great. And those, I'm assuming, are in 5-gallon bung barrels, right? I invested in a manual country living mill about 15 years ago now. Sumi, let us know how that works for you. Is it working? Do you feel it was of good value? And is it performing to meet your expectations? Because I've got that on my bucket list, but having a good recommendation as to which one would also be very beneficial. Little Lone Prepper says she's staying on quiet and hopefully invisible until the herd is thinned out, then starting to carefully scavenge. Yep. I think that's the key things. Make sure you keep those blackout curtains so they don't see your candles or lanterns or light or anything else. I think be 100% quiet, unobservable, unhearable, smellable, uneverythingable for at least the first month and a half. I'm going to say 6 weeks, probably up to 8 weeks. And then once that's done, then you can, go outside, empty your poo bucket, and, all those other things that you need to do. But otherwise, I would not want anybody to know that I was alive and well. That is for sure. So where do you store a ton of pasta, Jack? I keep a ton of cat litter on hand, but that's not temperature sensitive. Basements in Utah, Mike says. Absolutely. So remember, I think it's almost, to me, it's almost laughable that people are worried about having Monopoly and Sorry and cards and all these other things, Parcheesi and chess and everything else, because you're going to have all this free time on your hands for games. I say no. We're going to be the same way we were back in the 19th century. You're going to be just like a person out on the prairie. You're going to be working all day. You're going to be cutting firewood. You're going to be taking care of your crops. You're going to be fending off wild animals. You're going to be trying to go out and snare or catch wild game. Or shoot wild game. You're going to be butchering. You're going to be storing, pickling, salting, canning. You're going to be getting water and treating that water, boiling that water, whatever that case might be. When it gets dark, you're going to crash and you're going to sleep throughout the night because you want to get up before dawn in the morning, get your work done, and take care of yourself and everything that you need to do, and then go out, and as soon as the sun comes up, you're going to be working again. I think we are going to be working from dawn to dusk, 7 days a week. Once SHTF happens, and I don't think we're going to have too much time for downtime for card playing and things like that. That's my personal opinion. But we will see whether or not I'm right here, probably within the next year. Let me see. People who don't garden now will not be able to garden. It is a long learning curve, learning about insects that eat the leaves, learning about getting the right pH, learning about getting the right nutrients into the soil. So I have a worm farm, and I collect the worm tea in old bottles, like these. And then I have that worm tea so I can use that in my tower garden as a natural fertilizer. In my tower garden, I also have worms. And so, but it's so tough here in Texas. In the winter, they freeze, and in the summer, they melt. So, trying to keep worms in that worm garden is kind of tough. I do have another worm garden I can keep inside the house, and keep it a little bit cooler during the summer and warmer during the winter. But the problem is, once SHTF happens, I'm not going to have that much air conditioning and heating. So is it going to be, it's going to be a futile effort. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting I get worms and I put them in the garden itself and try to keep it that way. But, you can use worms as a natural fertilizer. So learning pH, learning when is the best time to plant them in your zone. I'm zone 8A here. When is the best time to plant them in their zone? When is the best time to seed them? When is the best time how long do they mature? All those different kinds of things. Learning that, knowing how to do things like the three sisters. You've got squash, corn, and beans. If you plant the three of those together, they're byproducts that they take certain things from the soil and they put certain things back into the soil. So if you put those three together, squash, beans, pole beans especially, and corn, then they are going to mutually support each other and maintain the ideal environment for all three of them to sustain life. So that's an old Indian trick, the three sisters. So look that up, the three sisters, and plant that way. I think that will do you a lot of good. So let me see down here. Absolutely. And I thought I could save my bell peppers. I brought them up here and covered them from the frost that we had 2 weeks ago. You should see my bell peppers. Usually I can keep bell peppers year round. Usually without a snowmageddon, my tomatoes will stay year round. But they all froze this year too. They've already frozen. So everything's going to have to be fresh and new. My cabbage failed. My lettuce failed. My potatoes didn't. I got tiny bit of potatoes. I got to find out what I'm doing wrong there. I saw a new thing where basically it's you put your potato eyes on top of the soil. You loosen the soil, put those on top, and then you just cover them with straw. I think my problem with my potatoes that last year was I didn't give them enough water. I think you really need to soak them, I believe. I'm going to talk to the extension agent and find out for sure. So Sumi says that her grinder that she uses, and what was the name of it? Let me get up here. She gave us the name. So that's an endorsement for the grinder that she has, which is I'm way up top here, Sumi. So if you would put that again, I haven't seen it yet. I may have missed it. Country Living Mill. So I'm going to write that down. Country Living Mill. Sumi gives it a high recommendation. Okay. Let's get down here, and then we got to get into the book here pretty soon. Forever foods, rice, beans, pasta, etc., are the filler foods and main source of protein. The rest of the foods are luxuries and serve as a variety of staple preps. It is that straightforward. I'm real big on collecting proteins. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at my March, let me see, I can do that. I think I can do that. Let's show you what I've got here. This is my leesprep.com, .thrivelife.com. Oh, I just got a phone call from corporate Thrive Life. If y'all don't know, I am an affiliate with Thrive Life, and you can be one too. It is a multi-level marketing program. And but if you're interested in that, please call me, because what I try to do is I try to put people underneath other people instead of always underneath me, so that you get free food. And but yeah, there we go. Okay, so here's my March 4th shipment. So let me see if I can't share that for you. Present. Share screen. And you get a discount if you do the monthly delivery service. It's about, I think it's an 18% discount from the other stuff. Looks like I need to close one or two things here because I'm starting to freeze. So, okay, so here is, here's my order for March 4th. I told you I put my order in every 4th of the month. So I got to take a look at it over here. I can't see it. It's too small there. So I'm getting a number 10 can of blueberries, a number 2.5 or a pantry can of diced chicken. I'm getting a pantry can of tomato dices. I told you I was going to have a can of tomato dices in almost every order that I ever do. And then I've got a number 10 can of seasoned chicken slices. And so that's roughly 35 servings in this can. And that's 7 servings in this can. This is about 50 servings of blueberries. And this is 7 to 12 servings of tomatoes. So that's kind of my plan for next month, what I'll be buying. That's $150, $160 just for those 4 cans. Astronomical. 2 years ago, no. 2 years ago, that I would not have gotten my free shipping. That would not have added up to $100 worth of purchases. So, but food's going up. That's all there's to it. I'm getting far less food for the money I was in the past. So let me get up here. I need my mouse again because I went past. And come on, mouse, catch up with me. There we go. Okay, so Foxtrot says that with the probability of emergency service disruptions, he's bought fire blankets last week. Beautiful idea. Great idea. So I can smother a range of fire instead of spraying my kitchen white. Absolutely. I have a fire extinguisher in every room. Make sure you check the pressure on those too. Make sure that they're still good. Now, insert, when they gave us our fire extinguisher training, we used fire extinguishers that were out of, that their pressure had expired. Every one of them put out the fires that we were using them on. We only used expired fire extinguishers, but every one of them put out the fire. So, but be cautious. Make sure you have plenty of fire extinguishers, fire blankets. Make sure you have ways of putting out fires. Not so much that you're worried about you and your fire. Be worried about your neighbors who don't know how to control fire. Be worried about your neighbors who don't know how to cook on an open fire. How many people are going to try to put a charcoal or an open flame fire underneath an overhang on their house and catch their house on fire? I mean, I was watching a video online and it says, and the guy says, this is why the Chinese communists think they can take over the US. And so the first question that was asked was, in what country is the Great Wall of China? And the lady answered, Japan. Well, actually, she answered Japanese. The next lady, they asked, what countries border the United States? And she didn't know. He says, I'll give you a hint. There's one to the north and one to the south. She says, and he says, they're above and below us. And she says, oh, is it the poles? And I mean, yeah, that's how they're going to conquer us, is we don't have any knowledge. I've noticed that too, Tracy. And by the way, welcome. A lot of people getting a lot more interested. And it could be that we're still at the beginning of the year where people are making their, still with their New Year's resolutions. But yeah, people are getting more into getting fit. Green Man Prepping. is doing getting rid of his granddad belly, and he's doing a daily exercise that you can watch on his channel. So Holly Ivans, welcome, says that she has 2 neighbors that garden with her. The older neighbors are from Albania and grew up farming. And Europeans do it a lot better than we do. Speaking of sleep, I hate to think of those people who have to medicate to sleep, as many of those medications are addictive. Absolutely, you are right. And when they run out, it's going to be terrible. You are correct on that. Food fatigue, spices and seasonings mixes might save our sanity. We had 12 meals in C rations, 12 different cans of entrees in the C rations. And I lived on C rations for a year. And yeah, you get tired of them, but you eat them, so I having lived through only having 12 meals, and I knew the difference in the color of the box, because the first sergeant would drop the C rations on the ground so that the name of the contents was covered, and you had to go up and pick yours. If I could pick and it was still there, tuna was a slightly different color box than all the others. So I always grabbed tuna. I'm going to say 75% of the time of that year that I lived on C rations, I lived on tuna. And did I get tired of it? Yeah. Did I eat it? Yeah. Did it affect my morale? I mean, it just made me happy when I was able to get other stuff, so, and it depressed me when I got the eggs scrambled with ham or, something else that I didn't really care for that much. Everything doesn't have to be planted in one garden. Absolutely. Microclimates on each side, different availability of the sun. You can also have different wind conditions. A lot of different things happen. Jalapenos required to eat beans and rice. Yeah, you would think so here in Texas, that's for sure. Let me get down here and catch up. So Butch Graves, let me see. I find that if you do the vining squash and the corn is fine, grow your pole beans, poles, or a trellis on poles or a trellis. They're too hard to harvest off of the corn. Oh, wow. And they can strangle the corn. Well, thank you for that. That's great. And Sumi is responding to my question about what was the name of that mill. So Eric is another one of my favorites. I'm sorry. Foxtress is talking about pinball preparedness. Eric is another one, and his channel is Epic Gardening. He's the one who planted wheat in his backyard one year, and to show us how much wheat it'll produce and what we can get from it. And so his house was on a 1/4 acre, and it's a 2,000 square foot house. And so he was able to use whatever was left of that 1/4 acre as gardening area. He planted wheat, and I believe it was a 30 by 20 plot of wheat. And then he harvested it, gleaned it, and he was able to get 1.5 loaves of bread from that wheat. So if you want to get an idea of how much you're going to have to grow in order to sustain yourself, if your backyard can only produce 1.5 loaves, you're going to need a lot of backyards to survive. Jack says that 2 adults and 3 teens in their household. So proteins, calories, and full tummies is the name of the game. Absolutely. Hey, Maggie, welcome. Good to see you. All right. So Holly's been dehydrating stuff, oranges, apples, all kinds of veggies, potatoes, and other fruits. Maggie turned me on to Azure Standard, and I was going through their website. Who did I tell? I just told somebody here recently. I'm ordering some dehydrated lemon slices from Azure Standard. I have never seen dehydrated, what are they called? Citrus fruits before. So I'm going to try the dehydrated lemons from Azure Standard and see how that goes. Oh, thank you, Maggie. I'll have to go check my mailbox. So Maggie's reinforcing what Phioxera said earlier about getting the fire blankets. I've been tempted. Now I've got 2 recommendations, Phioxera and Maggie both. Both of you tonight. That's great. Don't forget, and Jack says, don't forget to replace the foods that you eat. 33 to 50% more than a few years ago. So glad we filled our spreadsheet, plan for food preps when we did. Absolutely. And that's, you saw that with my Thrive Life order. Oh, I meant to say, for those of you here in Central Texas, get a hold of me. March 16th in Austin, they're having a Thrive Life get together. Free lunch. I'm sure they're going to prepare Thrive Life foods for us. There'll be all kinds of education. I have a feeling they'll probably have a sale and all kinds of canned goods available as far as freeze-dried foods. So if you are interested in attending on March 16th, an all-day Thrive Life freeze-dried foods symposium with a free lunch, please send me an email at coldwarprepper@outlook.com, and I'll make sure you get tickets and host you there as my sponsoree. All right, cats and prepping. Yes, and so as a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up because our CERT group, it's not called CERT anymore. They voluntarily withdrew from the FEMA CERT program and got into another one called eStars. But next Tuesday, we will not have a book club meeting because we have a 4-hour first aid class. And so this is going to be primarily on splinting. So next Tuesday, I will not be at the book club. I will be at the city, basically CERT first aid training. So I'll put a reminder. I'll talk about that again next Monday night when we have our meeting Monday night and remind you that Tuesday night, we're not going to have a book club meeting. We don't get them by the case. We get the sleeves. And we get them at Costco. Sam's has great roast beef. Sam's has great chicken, but my wife just has a tendency to prefer the roast beef and the chicken, the taste of it from Costco. So we have a whole bunch of those. I probably say, I think there's 6 or 8 cans per sleeve, and we probably have 5 sleeves of each. So probably about 40 cans of roast beef and chicken. Although we use the chicken quite a bit, she really likes the Costco canned chicken when she makes her chicken salad. So that's one of her favorites. All right. Great. My mother, when I was in an apartment, when I was single, I was in San Angelo on the 2nd floor. She came out to visit me and found out that I was on the 2nd floor apartment. And so when she got back home, she bought me a fire ladder. So I have a fire ladder. I have not lived in a 2-story house now since 1999. The first house we bought here in the Austin metro area was a 2-story. Then we went to a big 1-story. Then I retired and we downsized, and now we're in a smaller 1-story. I still need to get the garage filled out, keep throwing stuff away, giving it away, because trying to get 3,700 square foot house down into a 1,700 square foot house does not necessarily jive. Let me see. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And I wish there were a way you could come down here and we could take care of each other. So former East Europeans were preppers throughout the Cold War, not by choice, but necessity. Yes. And so one of the things that Stalin did was you had the collective community where everybody lived together, worked together, planned, centralized planning and everything else for the major crops. Everybody was allowed to have a small personal garden. And that small personal garden is really what sustained them. From the purges and everything else. More Soviets died of either political purges like 1937 in the Ukraine, or of starvation than anything else. And so, their private gardens is what sustained them. So they learned to be very efficient and effective in their gardening as well. So little Holly Ivans planted some strawberries today. Maggie says, save up your seasonings. Absolutely. Several bottles of different kinds of Tabasco sauce. They've gotten to the point now to where with the MREs, they do, and some of them put a little bottle of Tabasco sauce. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to bypass a whole bunch of these. I'm really sorry, but I want to get into what we're here for, the books, and we only have like 15 minutes left. Jack dehydrates and then crushes or grinds into a powder citruses, oranges, and lemons. That's a great idea. Let me see. Okay. Yes, that's true. Absolutely. Smoking fish. And then, of course, you've got they made their pemmican with fat and blueberries and meat, dried meat. And in case you missed it, I did the research. I talked about it on the Pantry Hall Saturday, but somebody asked the question, which salts can you use to cure meat, from last week's discussion. And so from what I have found, anything that when you read the ingredients says salt, and that's it, nothing else. No caking agents or anything else. As long as it's pure salt, it's good for salting meat. And so that one I showed you, the pickling and jarring salt from Morton's, the only thing that's in there is salt. So yes. So I have 4 of those now. I have 4 boxes of those. I'm going to be long-term storing for preserving my meats in the future. Now, and then I showed a can of, they said you can use sea salt, Himalayan salt, and then I believe it's Redmond's salt. It was a specific brand name. And so then I took some sea salt and I showed it on this Pantry Hall Saturday with that Morton's canning salt, and it has a caking agent in it. So, it's you can't use that sea salt to cure your meat. So that's just something there. Okay. Yes, later on there is. And biltong is a South African version of jerky, or what do you call it? I just said it a minute ago. Pemmican. Okay, so project number 5 is going to be making butter from powdered milk. So, and they specifically use in their example the powdered milk that he got from the LDS Provident Living Center. So they talk about mixing powdered milk, water, and oil. Now the oil can be sunflower oil, it can be canola oil, it can be, try to get something that doesn't have a taste to it. Coconut oil would be okay. I keep a lot of coconut oil simply because it stays for such a long time. I like some virgin olive oil. It's in a closet, very dark and everything else. So, and I get the smallest bottle possible so that when I open it up, I don't have to worry about keeping it open. That open bottle where it's got air in it now and it's going to go rancid quickly. So things that I think are going to expire quickly, I get in the smallest container possible. I have all kinds of lard. So I think lard is going to be my primary deep fat frying type stuff, and also my primary source of fat for cooking, for mixing, and breads and things like that. But anyhow, there is on starting at page 19, he talks about how to make your butter. He talks about an electric churn and using it until it thickens. I got this from Nutrient Survival. So this is to mix up their shakes. So they have powdered shakes, vanilla and chocolate that are high protein shakes. It's basically a meal in a shake. And so I have a couple cans of those, number 10 cans. And then they gave me this to mix it. So see this little ball down here in the bottom? If you take that ball out, okay, and put that into a canning jar, I believe that, so they talk about you can put it into a canning jar and just put the seal on top and of course the ring. And so if I put that in there, that's going to add extra agitation that's going to cause that butter to churn a lot faster. So I think if you can find something like this, some sort of an agitation ball, You may be able to find it on Amazon. I don't know. But it came in this bottle that I get for my shakes from Nutrient Survival. So, and I am an affiliate with Nutrient Survival, so you can get a discount code in the down below. Let me tell you something though. You get a 10% discount if you put my name and my code in there for with Nutrient Survival. There are better discounts unless you're buying more than $350. For example, you can put in a free sample pack that's worth $37.50. As long as you buy, I think it's $100, you get free shipping and the sample pack. To me, that's a better deal than my 10% discount. So don't use my 10% discount until you get up there into the big money. Use the free stuff that you get, which makes it, $37 worth of free stuff for a $100 purchase. That's almost a 40% discount or a 40% bonus. I think I'd go with that. So to be honest with you, thank you very much. I'd appreciate the money, but let's get what's going to keep you alive a little bit better. Okay. Okay. So let me see. Maggie says the springs help mix things up. Shenanigans, welcome. Hi. Don't worry. We're just now getting into the book. So, okay. So anyhow, so you can churn that until it becomes solid, and then you've got butter. A lot. No, I'm not going to say a lot. I have Nutrient Survival, I have Thrive Life, and I have Algerson Farms, and I have Hoosier Hill Farms. I have 4 different powdered butters. None of them contain fat. So you can't use them for cooking. You're only going to use them for flavoring. Okay, so if you want to use them for cooking, you're going to have to add a fat. Well, if that's what you wanted to cook with in the first place, so you're going to need something like coconut oil. You're going to need something like lard or something like that. There's also one Bacon Up. I have probably 4 to 6, maybe 6 tubs of Bacon Up. And it's basically just you're buying bacon grease that's been filtered. And so, that's another good one. I'm going to use that for a lot of my cooking, especially for it's asked for bacon, simply because I can't find any Yoder's canned bacon. I don't even know if it's made anymore. There's another one called Tactical Bacon. So those are the only 2 canned bacons I'm aware of that are on the market. And, but it's out of stock right now. I'm going to try the canning of the bacon that Rudy showed on Alaska Prepper. I'm going to try that and see how that works. We'll see how things work out. Yes, so I try to get a lot of, you'll see ghee, probably a jar of ghee, at least a pint of ghee every month in my Prepper pantry hauls. So Maggie B makes her own. Oh, you're welcome. Quite welcome. Okay, so project number 6, cream of whatever soup. So basically what he's doing is he's using butter, salt, flour, pepper, and then some sort of liquid. And in my opinion, what he's doing is he's making a roux. And then with that roux, he can use that to add to, you can add something into it like chicken stock, or you can add something to it like fish stock or something to turn it into a cream of something soup, celery or anything like that. But basically all he's doing is making a roux. And so if you know how to make roux, you got it made. That's project number 6. Project number 7 is emergency baby formula. Fantastic ideas here. Remember that mother's milk is the best milk there is for a child. And cow's milk may be harmful. Cows and goat's milk may be harmful to children up until the time, I believe it's the 12th week. So they don't have the natural immunities to some of the enzymes that are carried in other animals' milk until they're like 3 months old, I believe. But this gives you an alternative. It's a formula you can use. And then project number 8, he calls Magic Mix. And basically what they're doing is taking powdered milk, taking flour, and then taking margarine and turning it into a powder. And then with that powder, you can add it to things like cheese and make a cheese dip out of it. You can add it to beans and make bean dip out of it and things like that. So those are the 4 projects for this week. And then next week, we're going to get into basically what Phylloxerus mentioned. We're going to get into biltong, I believe, and their own form of pemmican. So don't forget your purchases. If you want 2,000 calories per person per day for 2 people for 10 months, your purchases coming up for this week, and we're going to get 4 weeks worth actually, are going to be 50 pounds of wheat or flour, 6 pounds of macaroni, 20 pounds of sugar, and 8 cans of tuna. And now we can go back to, yes, olive oil, they say, is going to be really high, Utah Mike. They've had some problems with the crops. And so wheat's going to be a big problem. Most of your produce is going to be a problem as well. So meat, of course, we had to thin the herds from the drought. We have not been able to build the herds back up. The drought continues. We don't, like here, just outside, right? I mean, I can see it from my windows. There's a big hay field, okay? And they typically get 3 cuttings a year out of that hay field. And this last summer, they only got 1 cutting from that field because we didn't have any rain. It was so dry and so hot. And so we're only getting about 1/3 of the normal hay production. So that's what you have to sustain your cattle over the winter. And we're just not getting it. So our herds are still fairly thin. We had that major fire that took out a chicken processing plant. They had an explosion that took out a whole bunch of cattle. I mean, we've had all kinds of food storage problems. Read that book, okay? Unconventional Warfare by the 2 Chinese colonels, how all these little food things and power things and road things and bridge things and ships getting caught in channels and all these other kinds of things, they look innocuous. You can't put point A and point B together and draw a line between them. And if you read that book, Unrestricted Warfare by the 2 Chinese colonels, that's exactly how they intend to fight the war against us. A whole bunch of events that if you put the totality of them together can take us down, but no 2 of them can appear to be tied or related to each other. So, I think they've got a brilliant plan in all reality. Let me see here. So Utah Mike says he gets the bacon bits from Costco and stores well. Okay, great. I will take you up on that. Bacon bits from Costco. See, I take notes from you guys. So one of the things that I hope that we understand about each other, Albert Einstein has a quote that I try to keep in my life on a daily basis, and it says, "The only thing worse in life than ignorance is arrogance." And so when you think you have all the solutions or have all the knowledge and you can't learn from other people and you start expounding yourself as the expert, telling other people how to do it, you are arrogant. And please, please don't ever let me be that way. So thank you all for your great comments and adding and causing me to take notes. I greatly appreciate that. Yeah. So that's one of the things I have in my spreadsheet too. And that's one of the few things I actually have dates on. Okay, so roux that I'm talking about is it's a French word, R-O-U-X, and it's basically we use it here as the base for our gumbo, which is a very spicy seafood and sausage and chicken soup that is very popular in Louisiana. And so the French word roux, R-O-U-X, is you take flour and fat and you stir it. I mean, you brown it. You really brown it in the bottom of a kettle, and you get that flour and fat until it's a chocolate brown. And then you start adding in your stock and thinning it as you go. And so what you're doing is you're adding a lot of flavor and a lot of thickening to the stock that you're adding to it. So the roux that I'm talking about is R-O-U-X, but I have a feeling, Jack, you knew that and you were being funny by letting us know that what a kangaroo is. I did tell everybody what kangaroo translates to. because most Americans don't know what kangaroo actually means. So, in Aborigine, that is. Hello, Scott Hummer. Welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Phioxerus, yes, that's exactly right. Let me see here. So several years ago, I made beef and venison jerky outside in a window screen box hanging in a big tree. No flies or animals could get into it, and turned out very good. Great. I had I think we sold it at a garage sale decades ago, but I bought one of those drying racks, and so I made my own beef jerky with an electric drying rack. I think if I were to do it again, I was looking at a bacon curing smoke thing that it's a contraption that you attach to a grill and a charcoal grill, and so you use the smoke from the charcoal grill to basically smoke cure meat and things like that. I've been looking into that. I think that would also be great for biltong, be great for drying products, be great for smoking products. So, but you're absolutely right. So I'm glad you did that. Maybe you can teach me. Mehlschwitze. So that's basically stirred flour. Mehl is flour, and Schwitze is stirred. And I haven't heard Zafrig, but Jack speaks. Jack is, as a matter of fact, Jack used to have the name Auslander, which means foreigner, is his name. Hungarians add paprika to everything. And so for those of you who don't know, paprika is in German is a bell pepper. Okay. So a lot of things, when you order things in Europe, the English word means something totally different in Europe. So paprika is basically a red bell pepper. And so you're going to slice that up. Now the paprika that they dry, and Hungarians basically toast and then dry and then crush and everything else. That has a different name, but we call it paprika, and so that's what we're going to use here. Let me see. Everything needs a lot of water in Northeast Texas. I am in the same area you are. This year I will grow a little in my buckets. It's time for potatoes to be in the ground, onions too. Okay, I will do that this weekend. Thank you, Pat. Not sure if it. I have a feeling that's the case. But okay, so we got through it all. Wow, right at an hour and 2 minutes. Any final thoughts before? Oh, we do. Phioxerus has something here going to add. Had to buy a small roll of stainless steel window screen a few weeks back. I only needed about 1 square foot, but I was thinking to be able to dry meat like you did. That's a great idea. I think you're thinking ahead and doing a good job of that. So, okay, everybody. Wow. Hey, if you aren't reading this, I sat down, I read half the book in one sitting. If you aren't, make sure you have this and that you're reading it for the last Thursday of this month. That's only 2 weeks away. Tomorrow is 2 things. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so make sure you think of the person you love and do something special for them. It's also Ash Wednesday, so it's the beginning of the 40 days of Lent, leading up to Good Friday and, of course, Easter. So reminder of those 2 things, so that we can make sure that everybody's straight on that. Let me grab my El Biblo here. Now, for those of you who don't know, this one has 7 books more than the King James Version. We can, if anybody's interested in know why, this is the one that was canonized in 425 AD. And Martin Luther didn't like some books, so he kind of took them out. But anyhow, Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Thank you. Thank you so much for being kind, polite, and respectful to each other. If you would, if you enjoy this, if you would share it so we can get the membership, the viewership up, that would be fantastic. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we're going to get through this together. I have I wish most of you, I really wish that, no, actually, I want to change that. I wish that all of you lived close enough to where we could be a community, a family together, because I really value the way you interact with each other is so respectful, so kind, so polite, and so thoughtful. A lot of you have such great ideas, and you share them so openly and so politely. Thank you so much for that. And so Jack has a question. What am I abstaining from this Lent? So there's a there's a channel called In the Habit. Father Casey, he's a Franciscan friar, and he had a real good 10-minute homily, and he talked, and homily is Catholic sermon. But anyhow, he talked about maybe you don't need to give up anything for Lent. Maybe what you need to do is add something else. Add more prayer to your life. Add more time doing, the cardinal or the spiritual works of mercy. Doing more hospital visits to people who are lonely in the hospital and haven't been visited, don't have any family to visit them. Going to the hospital, sitting and holding somebody's hand. Going to a prison and talking to somebody. Feeding the poor. Clothing the naked, sheltering the homeless. So what kind of acts of spiritual, corporal mercy can you do? Can you add to what you're already doing in your life? And he talks about the fact that maybe one of the reasons that Lent is 40 days is because it's a habit changer. So theoretically, psychologically, if you can do something for 38 or 39 consecutive days, then you've changed that to being a habit. So if we can either abstain from something for 40 days, or we can increase doing something good for 40 days, that becomes a habit, and that's what we're going to do. So my thing this year is I'm going to spend more time in the hospitals with people who need some attention, who need some care, who need some affection. And I'm buying all kinds of prayer cards and medals and things like that I can give to people who are confined to the hospital, and going to take books to them and everything else. So, that's what I intend to do, is spending more time taking care of my fellow man and showing them that Christ is love and that we love them and that they are not forgotten people. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay. So with that, we're going to get through this together. So everybody, please, tomorrow's Lent, tomorrow's beginning of Lent, tomorrow's Ash Wednesday, tomorrow's also Valentine's Day. How expressive is that? That the guy who gave his life out of love for you and remediation for your sins is going to be, we're going to acknowledge that on the day known for love. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. I will see you Monday night, but Tuesday night, I'll be taking a first aid class with CERT. So Monday night, we're going to be back into the book for Civics 101, Understanding U.S. Government. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.